most people in this world like are not really good listeners, you know, and it's a great skill that I feel like people kind of just work on through life. But part of where we always find like conflict in people, because people don't understand one another, and because they're either like blocked with their pride or something, or they're blocked with like just the willingness to understand like another. That's what I think like the world could definitely do better on.
Good.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of
Just One Bite.
I'm one of your hosts, Tiff at Take One for the Road.
And I'm Nina at Psychofood, and we're here to understand you, and hopefully you understand us too, because this episode's about just understanding and being understood.
Yeah, so we're just going to have a little discussion. I think this will probably be one of our more deeper topics that everyone can kind of resonate with. Yeah. And we have our laptops with us today just because it's something a little bit more on a deeper scope. We like took some time to think about things, write some notes down of you know, just some discussion topics we wanted to go through with you guys as well.
Yeah, and I think lately, like for us at least, where it's coming into like fruition of just being like understood or just like understanding, it's just because like I don't know if it's like Mercury retrograde or something, but then when there's like conflict with like family, your friends, or like work even, I feel like it's just hard to like
find the balance almost.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, there's a push and pull when it comes to being the one that's understanding versus being the one that's understood, and finding a good balance
between them. But maybe first what we can do is just define like what it means to be like understood versus like understanding. And so I guess for like being understood, I feel like it's more of just being able to feel seen in different scenarios, again with whoever you're interacting. It's like the need to feel like heard or to feel like validated for what you believe. And you know, like here at least, like I guess kind of like well, actually in most places, like in a very like community oriented like culture, like a lot of times you want to find like bonding with the people that you're around. So when you feel like validated with something that maybe you say and it's validated by like a friend or something, obviously you feel good from that scenario. But I guess being understood too also ties in with like being able to interact with someone and they kind of just know how you think, and it's like without the need of having to like really explain yourself, because it makes you feel like, oh yeah, someone really understood and listened to me and I didn't need to do a lot of explaining. And maybe that's kind of related to like when you're in a relationship or something, where like your partner just kind of assumes your needs. But that's also kind of a different discussion too about like assuming things, because that's another thing that it's hard to navigate. But it's always kind of like nice to feel when someone, you don't have to try hard to like tell your whole life story or like your whole thought process, especially when you're kind of in a heated like emotion. And I guess being understood too, there's like that desire to be like just understood accurately too, and people just like know who you are without having to like question you. So that's where I feel like a good mix of what the standard is for being understood. But
no, I agree. I think that's a really good definition. When it means to be understanding, I think for me it's about knowing how to listen, not just respond, but also just listen to what, you know, the person is saying, listen deeply on a different level, and then I think also just like you said, when it comes to disagreements, you know, so when you're trying to be understanding, you want to hold space for people, especially when you guys disagree on something. I don't think you necessarily have to, you know, be like, you know, you don't have to have the same opinions, you don't have to agree on everything to be an understanding person. And then I think also that ties into just like putting your ego aside sometimes. And just, you know, you you can just like also learn how to empathize with people. I think that's also another thing as well. And just be there for someone. Just let them feel heard and feel seen. I think that, at least to me, is what it means to be understanding.
It's like the idea about like being able to listen to people. Like, are you actually good at listening to someone else and then retaining and maybe even resonating with what they're saying? Because you can just let something like go in one ear and out the other, and that's not really being someone who's understanding of someone else. I
agree.
And I guess like just a question, well, like, what do you feel like comes more naturally for you? Are you like someone who like is very understanding, or do you feel like you're someone who just like people get who you are immediately or something?
I feel like I'm definitely more understanding. I feel like I'm a very, very patient person. I'm very like I'm always willing to hear people out and be gracious and generous with my time. And you know, I think that's one of my better qualities too, is just making people feel seen, heard, and comfortable. Even if I don't necessarily agree with them, you know, I try to be there for them. I try to empathize their situation, because at the end of the day, like, I maybe know what it's like to not feel understood sometimes, and I don't want someone to feel that. So I try to be more accommodating, and try to, you know, let them cry on like my shoulder, you know, kind of a thing.
Do you feel like you only became understanding because you weren't understood?
Maybe, honestly, because
because it's like,
because if you don't, you know how they always say it's like people don't understand until they've experienced something. You'll never fully understand something unless you've been through it yourself. And I think because maybe I grew up not feeling understood, or being like outcasted or bullied or something, like you
kind of just had to result in just being understanding. And it's kind of hard because I feel like we always grow up being like, you need to be kind of like the bigger person, and you know, like you can't really change them, so you just have to come to terms with yourself and control your reaction and stuff. So that's probably a reason why we just kind of became like more understanding.
Right. What about you though? What would you say?
I definitely think I'm someone who's a lot more understanding. Like, I do think I could be understood, just because I mean, I'm not like fully understood, but I feel like the way that I display myself like to the world, I'm not trying to like fake things, and so I think people kind of already think that they know me, and not that I'm like hiding anything really, and I'm not like I guess I like the way that my personality is. I think people just feel a little bit more welcomed.
Yes, for sure.
So then I think people just kind of assume the way that like I work, and I don't really have any secrets, so I don't really like fake, like I said, fake anything. But that's not to say too that I don't feel like understood the entirety of things, because while I display myself like to the world as being someone who's like always like positive, or I guess, or just like happy, or just having more of like a socialness, there's also a part of me too where if you're really close to me, you wouldn't know that sometimes, even for me, like I'm pretty extroverted, but I do need time to recharge on my own, because usually what's like a thing about like extroverted people is that they get recharged by people by people in general, like they get recharged whoever they're with. But then for me, like I also need a recharge like on my own, because sometimes I found myself before being like so busy with like other people that I don't have time for myself, and maybe that's just because it came with age. But then I think that element that of wanting time on my own, I'm not sure if everyone knows that about me, or like people around me, because they're already used to me like going out, or just like meeting other people, or just hanging out with friends. But I really do want and pride myself when I can have time on my own.
Do you think then people would see that, especially people who don't quite understand you, do you think that they would associate, when you know, you have one side where you want to be understood and one side where you're understanding, do you think people would think like one is more selfish and one is more selfless? Or do you think in both scenarios they could be an act of selflessness, or in both, or you know, they can both be acts of selfishness?
About like wanting to be on my own, like
being understood versus being understanding.
Oh, like if it's selfish, you like feel like other people want other people to know about you and stuff.
Like, yeah.
That's a good question. I feel like for me, it's not really like selfish in the sense where you want people to get to know you in a way, but it could be how you go about it.
Yeah.
Because I definitely think people can be very arrogant, and the reason why a lot of people are arrogant is because they're often like misunderstood, and they feel like they have to demand this understanding because they've been misunderstood so many times.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate because it's probably just the way that like things happen, the people that they're around who maybe lack the understanding or the willingness to understand you. But I don't think it's really selfish, but it would be pretty selfish to yourself if you don't display yourself in the most true way possible, if that makes sense. Because if you're not like true to who you are, then who are you really like serving? Like nobody, everyone else or yourself? Yeah, it's nobody. Yeah. What about you? Do you feel like you're more? Do you think it's like selfish or?
No, I don't think it's selfish. I think everyone should feel understood. I wish everyone could always feel understood. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I do feel like being understanding is an act of selflessness too. Because not, everyone is capable of it.
Yeah.
And I do think that the people who are able to show that more, like, I give them major props.
Yeah, I think people who just are able to really like listen to people and have like that skill set, they are the ones who are, funny enough, like probably the most quiet like people. Like, not saying that all people like are quiet and then they have to listen, but it's just like sometimes you hear a lot more when you shut up,
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think over the years I do feel like, I try to be a better listener because I've had great friends who I've noticed are really great listeners.
Yeah.
And then I see that quality and I'm like, wow, that is a really good friend who really is just like sitting here letting me talk, and they're asking like the right questions and trying to like be there for me. And that's kind of inspired me over the years, I think, to try to be more understanding as well.
Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna sound a little mean, but like, do you feel like, this is just an open-ended question, but like for the people who don't feel like they talk enough, like in your friendships, like think about it, like if people who are maybe more quiet than you or people who are more reserved and they're the ones who are always listening to you, like, don't you guys like feel a little like guilty where like maybe you feel like you're always the one talking and then the other person doesn't have an opportunity to like talk?
No, because I don't feel guilty because I make sure I also ask them questions.
Yeah.
I want them to feel like they're included, and then they can decide how much they want to share or whatever. But I think over the years you kind of learn, friendships, it's a two-way street, and not everyone's gonna have the same personality type. Not everybody knows how to be as empathetic as you or as understanding, but it's like something you can learn along the way. So I want to make sure my friends feel comfortable. I want them to feel like they're included. And I think you're really good at that.
Oh, thanks.
And I feel like you've honestly been a role model for me growing up. But like, the last couple years, I always admire how you are very, very inclusive of everybody, especially in social settings where we don't know everyone. Like, I'm an extrovert, but sometimes I still get a bit shy when it comes to talking to strangers.
Yeah, sometimes it's a necessary like little push that you need to give for your friends.
Yes.
But yeah, that's kind of where my question was kind of alluding, because it was more like an open-ended question, because if you guys like think about it, like how would you feel like if you were like probably what you were about to say, like if you're in a group setting, right, and then you have like one friend who is a little bit more quiet, and how do you think they would feel if you don't like introduce your friend to the rest of the group, and not saying like it's supposed to be your job like all the time, but how would it make you feel if, like, let's say that they are a bit more reserved, and if you kind of know that and you want them to feel like comfortable like also talking to people that you're more familiar with.
You want to be I try to be more mindful too.
Because you don't, like, for me, I like, if I was someone like who was like let's say that me and Tiff were hanging out, right, and then I am meeting her friends, like other friends that I don't know, and obviously I know that she's probably more familiar with them than I am, and then I'm just kind of standing there. Like, how do you think?
Yeah, that would make I'm
without an introduction.
Aware.
I mean, yeah,
like I would obviously be very aware. Like I would never do that to you.
Yeah,
I think I'm really good at. I think we're both really good at making sure the other person feels comfortable.
Yeah, but that's an example of what I mean, where it's like, how do you think your friend would feel like if you didn't introduce them and they're kind of just waiting for you to like include them in the conversation? Because most of the time when you're probably like, let's say you run into someone and then you are like, oh my god, remember that time, like, oh my gosh, you're gonna go to this thing, but it's not like I can relate, because I'm not friends.
Exactly.
And it definitely puts that person in a weird spot where you're kind of like, okay, I guess I don't really chime in like, oh, are you guys are doing that? Like, it's just weird.
It's just weird when if your friend is just standing there awkwardly. Yeah. So you want to, I think this is a good time. I think you should give them your tips. You have really great tips when it comes to this. But at least for me, I try to find things that I know my two friends have in common.
Yeah.
And then I kind of try to be like, oh, like this person, or like, oh, this is my friend XYZ, she actually also likes cats.
Yeah.
You have 2 cats, like, and then I'll try to make it like a funny joke or share a story, and then, then we can all start talking and having a conversation together.
Yeah. And I feel like that's part of being like understanding and understood by other people, because obviously for me, like, I feel like I want my friends to be like understood. So when you find like a commonality in a conversation like that, you're like, oh, not only are you kind of like validating like your friend who's maybe new to the situation or to the group by saying like, oh, like, so and so, did you know that she just recently went to this place, and I know that you just went there last year. You're basically kind of identifying, like, that's kind of like a tip too, like, oh, I know my friend just is about to go to Japan. Oh, my friend here that's new, she just went to Japan recently. And in both ways, you're kind of just validating both of them. They're like, oh yeah, I remember this about you, that you're about to go to Japan, or I'm remembering that you had just went to Japan. And it's kind of like a two wins.
Yeah.
Not two-way
like
street.
Finding a commonality and then like bringing it together.
But yeah, like, that's kind of just what I think is like how you can really like understand people, and understanding comes from being like really like comfortable with people and just making them feel comfortable.
I agree.
Yeah, because it's so hard, or it's so easy to be like misunderstood. But
and I think especially these days, people can be very dismissive. And at the end of the day, people just want to know that they have someone who will be there to listen to whatever they have to say without feeling dismissed, without feeling judged. And it's a skill that you can definitely learn over the years,
was there ever like a time for you that you felt like you really wanted to be understood but you kind of weren't, like, in a situation? Like, has that ever happened to you?
Probably in like past relationships with guys. I think sometimes at the end of the day, it's like maybe we don't see eye to eye on the same things, but I just want them, or maybe my partner didn't feel understood. And I think going through those relationships, I learned how to also be more understanding in relationships. Because I think I'm very understanding when it comes to friendships. But being understanding in relationships is a whole different world. There's like a second level to it. There's a different layer to it. So I think, in past relationships, there's been times where I didn't feel understood, my partner didn't feel understood, and it was like, at the end of the day, I just had to learn that, like, even though maybe if I can't understand something, I can at least empathize. And then at the end of the day, it's about like communication too, because I think maybe back in the day I wouldn't communicate how I wanted to be understood. Or like I should have also asked, like, how do you want, like, how do you want me to be, how do you want me to communicate how do you want me to like react to whatever you're giving me? Do you want me to just listen and you can rant right now, or would you like me to offer some solutions? And I think that goes, I think a lot of people can relate to that when it comes to relationships. And it went both ways for me and my past partner. We weren't really good at that, and then we would end up just making each other more sad or maybe more upset, because at the end of the day, it's like either I just wanted to feel understood, like I get you don't understand me, but this is like how I'm feeling. And I just want you to say like, okay, like, you know, I'm here for you, and I hear what you have to say, and I see that this is upsetting you, instead of just being like, I don't get it.
Yeah, no, that's such a good example, because it's that should be like a most like important question that you ask from someone. First of all, what Tiff said, like you should ask like, how would you like me to like receive this information? Like, do you just want like an ear to listen to, or would you like advice? Because that's another thing too of understanding, where you're giving like unsolicited advice but they didn't ask for it, and that's also part of understanding, because it's like, okay, I don't need this advice, you know, like this wasn't what I was asking, and you're so busy giving them advice that you're not. That's another thing that I don't think like people realize.
And then it's like also too, it's like I understand that person is having to also understand that the person that's giving you advice, it's out of love.
Yeah, I know
it's
that
not because like you know, so it's
they're
like
just
tricky.
No, for sure, they're just trying to give advice because obviously like they're your friends and they just want to help you. But then sometimes they could get lost with just like the motion of it. So that's why it's important for you to also communicate, even if you're frustrated or sad, like to just say like, yeah, I just want like an ear to listen to, or like, oh, maybe like some advice, like how would you go about it? Like those are completely fine to say. And I think that's another issue of why people just either continually get more upset because they don't feel like they're receiving, the other person's receiving. Yeah. Like even from the get-go, if you don't establish that, that's probably like you're like prone to getting like upset, you know, like, and do you want to get more upset, or do you want like to fix things, or how do you want to feel? And that's very important to communicate, and I think that does kind of come with experience and just like maturity too. But you're also right about you had said something about like what you should say to them, even if maybe you don't understand in full of what they're saying, because that's something that I think I could like do a little bit better too, with just saying like, because I do say like, oh, like I'm here for you, whatever, but sometimes people like need that reassurance too in conversation, like, you know, like I'm here for you, like and you don't want to be someone who says like, I don't know what you're saying, like I don't get it, like it kind of just gives off like dismissive vibes, and you're not trying to understand. But then when you say things like,
you know,
oh,
like I hear you, I empathize with you,
at
least it shows them like you're trying to understand where they're coming from, or whatever they are saying to you. Maybe, you know, it's okay to not always get it, but
you just have to kind of come from like something that you're just trying, and you're just showing effort to just be there for them. And that's kind of another hurdle to like get over. And I think people probably just don't want to like appear like if they actually like don't get it. I know probably people are saying that because it's out of frustration, that they're like, oh, this person's going in circles, like I really don't get it. But like you shouldn't like give that to them either. Like it just makes it seem like you're not really there for them, and it's like, why should they have been trying to like talk to you in the first place? Like you just have to be responsible for your own reaction and just providing a safe space like to talk. Like you like sometimes that's all you really need to do, and it's not that hard to just be like, okay, I'm here for you, like how would you like me to like go about like listening to you, you know, like just literally those like words is all you really need, and people could just do a lot better with just explaining that. I agree. But
what about you though? Any like memorable times you felt misunderstood, or like someone didn't understand you?
I mean, I think the most prominent thing is probably just like culturally, you know, where like I remember when I was living in Vegas, there was Filipino people there, but there wasn't obviously there's other people who are not like Asian like descent there, and I used to have like a really like close like best friend before, and I remember this, like it wasn't like that I was super like offended, but in Filipino culture I usually use like a spoon and fork, and I usually like eat that way, like a fork in my left, a spoon in my right, and then I'm like scooping the rice, eating it with like a spoon, or like cutting it with like a spoon or fork and whatever. And that's just the way I eat, like how you can use chopsticks. It's just like in the Philippines you can do it that way as well. And I distinctly remember this moment where I was eating at my family and I, and then my best friend at the time's family as well, we were eating at like a Chinese restaurant, and I was eating with like a spoon and fork, and they were like watching me eat, and they were like, oh, like why is she eating like that? And then my parents are like, oh, that's just like how like we like eat in the Philippines. And they're like, oh, that's so like interesting, like, oh, that's very like such a unique way. Like it made me
makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I can't even like, I don't want to like claim it either, but I feel like at the time they were like, oh, that's like such an oriental way of like doing it. And then I probably don't remember that well if that's what the word that they used, but I definitely remember being like, what the heck, like it just felt like an experience that was so out of this world. And that's kind of where the term like oriental comes from. Which is not something that I would use like nowadays. I mean, not me, but just like other people should use like nowadays. But it was just the feeling of being like misunderstood, because they were just like, oh, like my home, my like safe space is probably like my culture. So for someone to kind of be like, oh, that's like interesting, like I've never seen that before, like making you feel like such an outsider. Like and by the way, they're not of Asian descent, so
and maybe that's why,
where like, because
if you did not experience it yourself, you can't fully understand it. But they didn't have to make those comments.
And I was like young at the time. I was like probably younger than like 9 or 10 or something, and like that's probably like my first time that I've ever been like questioned about like my culture. And so that's not something that I would have like I didn't think that was abnormal to be using like a spoon and fork. And I remember from that day, it sounds so bad, but I like stopped really, like when I would be outside in public, I wouldn't use like a spoon and fork all the time, so I would just use like a fork. And I had been like that.
Made you feel almost like embarrassed or ashamed
that I should be using a spoon and fork as a Filipino. So I felt like kind of uncomfortable, and I distinctly remember that moment, because I would try to like switch my fork from my left hand to my right hand, and then just like learn how to eat with that. But it's like, obviously it's like abnormal, because I probably have been using it that way.
It kind of reminds me of like when we were younger and we would bring our traditional home cooked meals as school lunches.
Oh my gosh, I was just talking,
when you're Asian, and you know, maybe I grew up in a more Asian community, so it wasn't as
abnormal.
Weird, but there, definitely people of other cultures who didn't quite understand, and they were like, ew, what is that?
What's that smell? Why is this multi-layered? No, because I was just talking about this with my boyfriend about having like one of those thermoses that are multi-stacked, that's like three levels. Like it would be like the meat at the bottom, like the rice, and then maybe like a snack or some other like extra like appetizer, and it's like a multi-layered like Asian. I feel like a lot of people who grew up in an Asian community like are more familiar with that. But I didn't really like, I kind of am similar to you, where when I moved to California, like in Orange County, it was definitely more Asian there. So I was used to having people with multi-compartment thermoses and stuff. But I was just talking to my boyfriend about how in class, I actually would eat my lunch before actual lunchtime, because I would be busy with like Key Club or something or Kiwanis and stuff. And then I would be eating like right before that. But I didn't really think about how maybe it would be like uncomfortable with people if they had like the smell of the food, of like the Asian food.
Because they don't understand.
And I like didn't like process that before, and I'm like, I would always want my mom to pack like stuff that were a bit more dry, if that makes sense, because if it was like wet,
or like I'd be like, can you pack me something more American or normal? I mean, sometimes, but I also understood, like, or I was like, why can't I be like the kids who can just buy school lunch? I used to think the people who got to eat school lunch was so cool. And then I would have to just eat like whatever my like grandma like cooked, or like leftovers, or my parents would give me like pack the tuna cans with the crackers.
Oh my gosh.
Which is also like a kind of a fishy smell, so people would tease me about that. But But now, obviously, I'm an adult. I'm like, I love my culture. I love Asian food.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're younger, it's different because you're surrounded with kids who
are different. Yeah, no,
different
exactly.
Backgrounds, different
yeah,
cultures. Who, and so.
Yeah, so I think like just like the Asian culture is something that I realize that not everyone kind of like understands. Like I think I'm a little grateful that I was like in Orange County because that was a bit like easier. But then the idea that if you are Asian, you probably don't have like you have kind of different opportunities than people who are not like Asian. And I've spoken about this too on the podcast where because in high school I pursued I went to like an art school, so my like major was in acting, but then most of the people in my conservatory were not Asian, so most of the times the people who would be casted in like the main plays for the year are not of Asian descent, so then I would always be kind of like that funny side character and stuff. But no matter how like great of like an actor you might be, like it was always like the people who are not like Asian. So that's another thing of being misunderstood.
No, I agree. I mean, I feel like the Asian community is now having its come up after Crazy Rich Asians. Asian actors are being taken more seriously and are becoming more seen and understood, which I love. But same thing, I feel like a lot of Asian people, we didn't feel understood because we weren't seeing people of our looks, culture on the main screen. And so, growing up, how am I going to watch a TV show and fully relate when I don't see an Asian girl on screen? Or the only one I saw was Brenda Song, and they casted her as a ditzy heiress.
That one was interesting, though. I've seen like TikToks about people who are like, where it's like, how Ashley Tisdale was like the blonde, and then for London Tipton she was like Asian, and they're like, why is the roles reversed when like the blonde is like not the dumb one and the Asian one's like the dumb one? But I'm like, like that's in itself something that I think our society has really tried to define through labels. So like I think it's kind of like offensive when people are like, oh yeah, she's just like a dumb blonde. Like I think that's pretty like offensive.
So I actually do like how they casted it in a sense where they were trying to go against the stereotype.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if you're like blonde or if you're like Asian or something.
But I did wish growing up they put more Asian people on screen that I could relate to in TV shows. Because it's always like the Asian ones are always casted as like the doctors, side characters, or they're like a doctor for like a side character moment. So it's just, all people can be any type of person. Agreed.
So it's just a little like hard because people really want to be classified in a certain category. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like they want to be part of like a community, but they also don't want to be like defined by like the assumptions of their label. So I think because the world is so revolved about these defined labels that everyone just starts assuming something from another person, when at the end of the day everyone's their own person, and you just have to really get to know someone for who they are, and instead of like everything else,
how media
portrays them. And the same token too, I definitely think that there could be like a lot more representation and more willingness to understand different cultures, because maybe too the reason why the media isn't like talking about all these types of like cultures and backgrounds is because like they don't know how to tell the story, or they have like the willingness to tell the story, they don't give them the platform, or people are just like, oh, it's just gonna be about the same thing, so they don't want to like talk about it. So there is another part of that where people could be more willing to understand and find passion in finding compassion in other people. So
I agree.
No facts. So if you're someone out there who feels a little misunderstood for being like Asian, or just any like background, I understand. We understand. But I guess too, where do you I also wanted to bring up like how being understood is like more prominent in like your friendships and relationships, because like do you ever feel like you need the understanding to feel loved?
I think if you asked me when I was younger, I would say yes. But now that I'm older, I think my answer has changed. And no, I don't think I need to be understood to feel loved, because people can show love in different ways. And I think growing up too, you know, I don't think our parents' generation will ever understand our generation and how I was raised, or maybe how you were raised, or how my friends were raised. There's a lot of things obviously our parents did that made me question, like, you don't get it, so does that mean you don't love me?
Yeah.
You know? But now that I'm older, I realize, you know, they do love you because they show it in different ways. Just because they don't understand you, they'll do other things that show that they love you.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, because I was actually thinking the way that you were going with the question was like, oh yeah, like the other person doesn't need to understand me, they just need to like love me in other ways. I was kind of like, no, they should understand you. But then I know, but when you brought up the generational thing, that's also true, because part of what is hard is because people feel like they have to, like, they feel obligated to love you or something. But it really doesn't have to feel that way, like an obligation to like I'm trying to like
to try to even empathize with you, I guess, because in my head too, I also think about people with different religious beliefs, different political beliefs. You know, at the end of the day, you might not be able to agree.
Yes, that's okay. Yes.
Things, but does that mean that person doesn't love you because you guys don't agree, or maybe don't have the same values on certain things, don't have the same religious beliefs?
Yes.
Does it mean you can't love each other? And for that, I don't agree. Like, I think you can still love one another, and still disagree on things. Yeah,
no, you put it in a way that I was trying to like put into words, because you are right, where a lot of the times, like, we all have different like morals, we grew up differently, and we might have just different like beliefs, but the understanding doesn't mean that you, like you said, you have to agree with what they're saying. It's just like the understanding of like, even the awareness of what their thought process is understanding. Like, like, we don't try to be like too political like here, but like, I forgot who this person was, but it was this like one lady who she's like a politician, and she is from like, I think she was Republican, and so she was talking about like, you know, the reason why like we obviously like argue was because we have different like morals of what we believe and whatever like liberal or like conservative like mindset, but at the end of the day too, like what you're responsible is of how you react to different situations. Like, people lash out because they feel like they're not understood like of their belief, but then
that's a good point.
And then she was saying like, you know, I might not agree with what you're saying, but I understand where you're coming from, of like why you think that way, and I'm not trying to change of what you like believe in, because that's obviously like what you find as your truth, but what we can do better is not like fighting with each other, because when it starts getting like violent, or just getting like I guess like abusive, or just more like in like a heated emotion, once the second it starts getting like so high and like anger, sadness, like attacking mode, like immediately the other person's not going to understand you. So that's the level that you shouldn't try to get with people, where you can really find understanding with people if you don't elevate yourself to that. Like,
you just create a safe space.
It's
be able to hold space for people who have different emotions or feelings towards something that might not align with what you had in mind.
But it's also like your responsibility too, to just be like controlling of your own reaction, and just being like aware. Like, I think that's probably where like the understood and understanding kind of come from too, like just being like aware of like what's out there, what's aware of like different viewpoints. Like, that just makes you a lot more worldly and just more understanding of people, because like if you just care too much about yourself, like it's kind of hard for you to relate to other people, because you're so like stuck in your ways, but a lot of people can do some greatness with just understanding people and where they come from.
Yeah.
I know we're like, it's like a lot of circles that I feel like my mind is like thinking of.
No, it's good though, because it shows that this topic plays a role in a lot of different things, you know?
Yeah. And I guess too, like, what do you think is, like, how do you think people can go about like being better at understanding and being understood? Like, let's start with being understood. Like, how do you think people can, like, is there any tips or techniques that people can do to feel like understood, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think this is something, it's like almost like a journal topic, something you have to look deep within.
Like, do you think it's just
about times where you did feel the most understood? And I think for me growing up, I feel most understood when I'm able to talk about something and I don't feel judged for it. I feel most understood when someone's listening to me and then they're asking questions so that they can better understand how I'm feeling, or, you know, like better understand how they can maybe help me.
So you feel like the techniques to be like understood is like kind of just asking you questions, and maybe a good term to umbrella that is like active listening. Like that's kind of important for me, where I see someone else also like active listening, where maybe yes, like they're asking questions, or maybe they're like repeating something back to me of what I said, because that kind of makes me like aware, because I could really get into the motion of just talking, and then if someone kind of reiterates something back to me, it kind of makes me be like, oh yeah, I guess you heard me, and then I'm gonna keep going with what I'm saying.
I'd appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's how I feel the most understood. Also, when people, like you said, like when they don't elevate or raise their voice, because once they do that, it's like I shut down
immediately. People get defensive when you elevate your tone in voice, or when you're more like angry. People are gonna be like, okay, when someone's yelling at you, what are you being? Yeah, it's either you attack them and you're like, no, I feel this way, or you either like succumb.
I shut down, and then I don't feel safe.
Yeah, you're just constantly thinking.
Can't tell you how I really feel about things, or how something's making me feel. Because you haven't created a safe environment. So I guess another thing would be like, I feel most understood when someone
validates your feelings,
how I feel, or at least can say, you know, I empathize with you.
Yeah, creating the safe space.
Yeah, making me feel comfortable.
Yeah, and I guess that's bleeding into what are some techniques of how you can be more understanding for people. And that's like really setting the groundwork of being like, you know, this is a safe space to feel whatever you need to feel, like say whatever you need to say. And sometimes like just establishing that is something that's missing with people, like where you really have to play like the groundwork and give the reassurance that, you know, you're someone who's safe to talk to, you know. And sometimes people might not know that, you know, that they are or not safe to talk to you, and where you're always like validating, like, oh yeah, like I'm here for what you're saying, like I'm here, like if you need to like talk, like literally just saying that is something that I don't think people obviously know.
I actually, I make it a point too to also let my friends know, like, whenever you feel like you need to talk to someone, no, you can come to me. You know, like I have friends where I know I can go to them and tell them however I feel about something, because I know like I will never be judged for it, and that they will always understand me. And I try to be that for people too, where it's like you want to create a safe space, and also just like do check-ins with people. Check-ins with your friends. You know, if you're not hearing from your friends for a bit, check in with them and just be like, hey, like just checking in, like making sure everything's okay, you know. And then some people, they take different times to process things. You know, some people maybe they do need a shoulder, but they don't know how to ask for it.
Yeah.
And so I've had friends too who are like, you know, I was going through a really hard time during these months, but I feel like I don't have friends that I like could go to for things like this. And then I have to be like, well, you know, like, you can come to me. I will always be there for you. I will always make time for you.
Yeah, Tiff is really good at saying that too, establishing like that like safety net.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, this, you know, me lending an ear right now, it's not just for right now, it's for the entirety of our friendship. And I think that's kind of what I at least tell my friends. I'm like, I try to reiterate, you know, like, I am always here for you. I don't want you to keep things hidden because you're scared. I don't want you to keep things because like you think like, you know, no one will understand you. Like, if anyone's gonna understand you, it's gonna be me.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I think when people don't feel understood, it could lead to like unsafe things, dangerous things, dangerous thoughts. People go and dig themselves into these dark holes, and you know, that's something I don't want my friends to ever go through, because I think during periods of time I have been there, and it was some of the darkest times of my life where I felt like I couldn't talk to
yourself. I couldn't
talk to anyone about everything because I just felt like they would
like ridicule you, critique you. Like, that's like literally like another thing too. Like, you're not really creating a safe space if you're just always going to be like if you think that you're the friend who's like, oh yeah, I'm always here, like, just talk to me, like, that's not really an inviting energy. It's more not. Like, okay, just go, you have to come to me to like be that if you want like some advice from me. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, what the way that Tiff is doing it, she's like establishing like that, you know, like that softness, like, you know, I'm here to like care for you if you ever need. And you shouldn't like say that during times that are like really bad or whatnot. You always just like saying it, you kind of just have to drop like because I was gonna lead that some people are kind of just shy, or they think it's too bold to be like someone who says, oh yeah, I'm here for you, like if you ever need. Like, sometimes I feel like people are embarrassed to kind of say
people
that.
People are scared to ask for help. People are, you know,
or even just say that that there's someone that they can like lend an ear or something. Like, I think people are like, oh, that's kind of too cheesy, you know, to say that to someone, or to say that oh yeah, I'm here for you, or they think it's too like that's too soft, or it's too like kind of weak-minded. But it shouldn't really be the case. If you're just saying like, oh yeah, I'm here for you. Like, if anything, I think that's a very strong intention and strong emotion to like give to someone who's like your friend or your family. But
because you know, I think also another part of being understanding is understanding like, when it comes to a lot of situations when people need to feel understood, there's gonna always be two sides to every story. And I think it's about remaining, like, you know, being understanding on both sides so that it can create like a healthy environment. Especially when it comes to relationships, because I've been on both sides. I've experienced it, and I see friends who experience things where nothing's ever going to be perfect, but you want to be understanding of both sides, because obviously they both feel something, and at the end of the day it could be just like a big misunderstanding, and it's about how do I navigate that, and how do I, you know, make sure my friends feel safe to come to me when maybe they're going through something. You know, like, because I've been there too, where it's like I was going through really hard times, but I didn't feel safe enough to go to my friends at the time because they,
like, you don't know if you can go to them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know, honestly, if you're someone who's like feeling like the whole world is like so overwhelming, and like you feel like you have a lot of things going on, like if you're thinking on an outside perspective, like, why do you think if they're so overwhelmed that they are comfortable right now? So why would they feel comfortable to like go out to someone? They're so busy thinking in their own thoughts. They're so busy like feeling whatever they need to feel and feeling like overwhelmed, that honestly, like, when you're in that state, you don't feel like you have time to like reach out to someone, or you feel like you might not even
time. You just,
you might
like,
not feel like
you're stuck.
You're not welcome.
You're not welcomed.
You're not welcomed, and you're not like well, actually, I don't know if it's like welcome. It's just like you're not really like thinking. That's not the first thing that you're thinking of. Like, oh, I should reach out to someone. You know, like you're so overwhelmed with like
there's so much other shit
things going on.
Yeah. There's a lot of other things.
Like you're so like that's what I'm trying to get at. Like you're so busy like trying to think about what you're like having issues with. Like going to someone is like the hardest step, and like for someone to just be like, oh, you should just come and talk to me. Like why didn't you like come and talk to me, you know? Like that's literally like probably like the last thing that someone's like thinking of. They're just like too overwhelmed to like go up to someone like, oh, I'm so busy. Like that's another thing that I have to think about. So if you establish it early on, like that someone is like, you know, I think someone could really I could really have someone, or this person really can give me like the ear like to listen. Like that should already be established early on instead of like later after.
I agree.
Yeah, it's like I know I feel like I'm kind of going in circles. Like this is a topic that I'm trying to like really like classify, because something for me that I feel like I'm actually misunderstood is that I don't lay out what I believe is right. I don't know, or I want to appear what's it called? Like I don't want to be like misunderstood, so I'm trying to like strategize the way that I'm trying to talk about this. Because that's another fear that I think I have, where like maybe something that I say is taken in the wrong way. And so something I like kind of grew up with is just trying to talk slower, but that's still kind of like a struggle that I have, where I'm kind of just rambling and keeping going.
It's okay, I'm the same. I blank out a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, because you just want things to be perfect, and you just want it to be said in the right way. But like the ultimate like lesson here is that like you could be really like understood in a way that's like active listening, taking the time, taking the patience, and just being bold in the moments that aren't in the heated conversation, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
But I know this is like, I think this topic we could like go on like forever about.
We can always do a part 2.
Because I feel like this is something where it's a lot of like open-ended things, and honestly the reason why we're just bringing it up is just bringing the conversation to the table, because it's reflection time, you know, like that time of the year. It's like kind of halfway mark, or a little later than halfway mark now, but the lesson that we just wanted to like just give is to just be like open-minded, and just like kind of just think back of how are you giving understanding, and how are you giving off being understood.
That's a good one.
So it's just really to hopefully like stir your guys' mind and just kind of just think about it, because we want to keep these conversations like open and just something that you can really like just be more aware of, you know. But
that's good.
Is there any takeaways that you wanted to give to anyone?
No takeaways, but like you said, I think this is a great moment for reflection, especially if you guys are into journaling, or maybe if you want to leave a comment or send us a DM of times you felt the most misunderstood. Like, you know, we're also here for you, and if there's something you're going through, you know, that you think you just need an ear on, or maybe some guidance or some advice, or just someone to talk to, feel free to reach out in our DMs.
And it's not like us, your friends or your family may have the answers all the time, you know, but just having like the conversation to be able to talk about it. Sometimes you might even like realize something on your own to fix whatever your problems, or maybe something, or more like realizations about what you're thinking about, because I feel like just talking about it just helps you kind of like get over something, and then you find your own answers yourself, because at the end of the day it's kind of just up to you. But everyone else is kind of like not an accessory, but everyone is just like kind of extra in your life, you know, and you're the main character. But hopefully you guys had some like thoughts about it, but we'd love to know like how you guys feel like is better, of how you can be understood better, or how you can give understanding. We'd love to like learn more about it, because it's very important, and spread the love too for the rest of the community. So well, this is been great.
A good episode.
Hopefully it's make your brains like tickle, you know? But you know where to find us. We are at Just One Bite Pod on YouTube and YouTube, TikTok, Spotify,
all the socials.
Like literally, and we release episodes every Tuesday. And if there is an update, we might just put it like on our story. So definitely stay tuned. But yeah, this was a great like episode, and hopefully we'll see you for the next one. Bye.